It's the radio guy, Mike Prince. Welcome to the Football Friday edition here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Of course, our mission is to come to you each and every day. Football Fridays are no exception to the rule. Our social media handles for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are all at The Mike Prince Show. The YouTube channel is Open Mic Broadcast Network. Our 24-hour dial-in message line is 713-570-6736. And without any further delay, we're going to jump right into today's episode. It has been an exceptional week throughout the course of this week. A whole lot of announcements that have been made, some shocking, some not so shocking, but it is just bringing to light now a much clearer picture of what is possibly going to be. We're going to hear from head football coach and athletic director for the Waller Bulldogs, Mr. Gene Johnson, in regards to what UIL in regards to athletic competition in the state of Texas is concerned. There's talks now that they're going to flip the fall seasons to the spring. So we'll get more updated on that later on throughout the course of the show. But in the world of collegiate athletics, there have been some major announcements that were made throughout the course of this week. The SIAC, the CIAA have made it official. They will not have any fall competition for their conferences. They're falling in line with the decisions that were made by Houston-Tillerson, Langston University, and Texas College. Now, a lot of the emphasis were put on the Ivy League because they too made that same decision this week to forego in any of their fall competition. So now it has created a domino effect. Big Ten has announced that they're going to keep their season on track for right now, but it will be conference play only. And with that being said, the MAC is a trickle-down effect with that decision being made. The MAC conference alone had over $10 million worth of guaranteed games scheduled with big team schools, and that's going to throw their economic system out of whack. So there's so many things that are going on and moving parts. The Power 5 schools right now are all looking at the spring model, pushing things back as far as they can. Now, it was asked, would it work on FCS and even Group 5 measures? Group 5, you can almost see it working because of the fact there are some TV deals lined up with your Group 5 programs. But as far as FCS programs are concerned, this is just one man's opinion. I think you don't even try to keep up with what the Group 5s and Power 5s are doing as far as spring football is concerned. Count up your losses. Make sure that these kids are getting their classes caught up and they can move forward to make sure that there is a future after athletics, and that's getting their education secured. So a lot of sensitive decisions to be made, but the right decision to be made, I think, is to put the health of these student athletes out front. Now there's been another stir with some parents of some of these student athletes that have come up, a new group that was formed, and they sent some letters with 22 questions to the NCAA asking about some of these health concerns. So we're still trying to figure this thing out, but the handwriting is obviously on the wall that fall athletics, more than likely on a scale of 1 to 10, from Mike Prince's viewpoint, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the absolute best opportunity to have fall sports to roll off in 2020, I am going to have to give a 3. That's how I'm looking at this thing. A lot of people are very optimistic. A lot of people are playing political ball right now. Some want to hear this is going to happen. Others know it's not going to happen. So they're going back and forth on that. Meanwhile, the reality is the reality. Numbers are spiking up as we speak. There are only two choices. You shut it down or you try to move forward. And it's looking more and more like it's going to be shut down. There has been a report of the virus landing on the heel of Prairie View A&M University. We knew that the campus was shut down till August 3rd. Not saying that it was tied to that, but the health and concern of PV Nation, we are praying that all is well with those who are involved. So this thing is real. It's all around us. And believe it or not, some people are still saying that it's a hoax. It's not happening. It's not real. Well, I'm not going to be the one to try to prove anything. I'm not going to try to prove how strong I am. I'm not going to try to prove how much faith I have. All you can do is look at the data for what it is. You make an adult decision. You live with whatever decision that you make. That's the beauty on living in the United States. You have a choice. You can choose A or B. The option is yours. Speaking of options, we're going to take a break. We're going to hear the reports from Mr. Terry Coleman, Mr. Rob Butler. Once we get those reports in, take care of a couple of bills, we'll hear from Coach Gene Johnson, the Waller Bulldogs, and talk about the latest UIL adjustments in the state of Texas. You're listening to Friday Football right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Keep it where you got it. We'll be right back.
Terry Coleman with the Delta Sports Report. College football is scheduled to begin in 9 weeks. Here's a preview of Mississippi Valley State football. In 2019, the Delta Devils went 2-9 overall, 1-6 in the SWAC. The 2 wins home games against Greensboro, 21-23, and Texas Southern, 35-14. The Delta Devils have 5 home games this season. Here's a look at the 2020 schedule. September the 5th at Nicholls State, September the 12th at Sam Houston State, September the 19th, home against Alcorn State, September the 26th at Alabama State, October the 3rd at Grambling State, October the 10th, home against Alabama A&M, October the 17th, homecoming against Virginia Lakesburg, October the 24th, home against Arkansas Pine Bluff, October the 31st, Halloween at Jackson State, November the 7th at Texas Southern, November the 14th is the open day. The final game is November the 21st, home against Virginia. My prediction for the Delta Devils, they will go 3-8 overall, 5 in the SWAC. 3 wins will go up to be against Virginia Lakesburg, home against Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then Texas Southern. This is the Terry Coleman with your Delta Sports Report.
This is Rob Butler with your Southland Report. This week I want to talk about Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine and what it said about the Southland. Here's what they're predicting. Number 1, Central Arkansas, they went 9-4 last season. Returned plenty of firepower at the skill positions led by quarterback Braylon Smith, over 3,700 yards passing and 32 touchdowns. Number 2, Sam Houston State, they went 7-5 last season. They should be a contender for the conference title this year. The key will be the health of the quarterback Eric Schmidt, who produced over 1,700 yards passing and 12 touchdowns in only 8 games. Number 3, they got Nicholls. They went 9-5 last season. The key for them is quarterback Missouri transfer Lindsey Scott Jr. He's likely to be the field general this season. Number 4, Incarnate Word, they went 5-7 last season. They relied heavily on an opportunistic defense that once again led the conference last season by forcing 33 turnovers. Defensive back Jalen Jimerson, 55 tackles, 4 interceptions, is a key returner to a defense that lost plenty to graduation. Number 5, Southeastern Louisiana, they went 8-5 last season. They're another challenger for the Southland Conference crown. Lions quarterback Cole Kelly, 10 TDs passing, 10 TDs rushing. He'll be the starter this year. 6, Abilene Christian, they went 5-7 last season. They'll once again rely on a 2-quarterback system with Samaje Davis, over 600 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns, and Iowa transfer Peyton Mansell likely splitting snaps. Number 7, Houston Baptist, they went 5-7 last season. They're ready to take the next step and challenge for a playoff spot. Quarterback Bailey Zappi had over 3,800 yards passing, 35 touchdowns. He leads a potent offense. Number 8, McNeese, 7-5 last season. They have a new head coach for the 3rd time in 3 years. It's Frank Wilson. He was head coach at UTSA for 4 years. The Cowboys have plenty of firepower with quarterback Cody Ogeron, over 2,600 yards passing and 24 touchdowns, and a veteran defense. Number 9, Stephen F. Austin, 3-9. They're amid a rebuilding process this season. Quarterback Trey Self, he had over 2,500 yards passing and 12 touchdowns. He returns along with wide receiver Xavier Gibson, 934 yards and 7 touchdowns. Number 10, Northwestern State, they went 3-9 last season. They're trying to avoid finishing below 500 for the 6th consecutive season. UTSA quarterback Bryce Rivers is likely to take over the reins of the offense and will target wide receiver Kendrick Price, who had over 300 yards and 5 touchdowns last season. And number 11, Lamar, 4-8 last year. They have a new head coach in Blaine Morgan. Morgan's main challenge in his first season will be finding a quarterback with JUCO transfer Jalen Dummett, the early leader to earn the starting nod. That's Rob Butler, Open Mic Broadcast Network.
I'd like to take this time to recognize our sponsors and supporters at the Open Mic Broadcast Network: Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union, Temple of Refuge Ministries, Prairie View Athletic Club, Attorney Lee Van Richardson, Farmers Insurance of Hempstead, Texas, Diva Skin Conditioner, Helping Hands Lawn Service. Thank you for your support of our local and regional coverage of student athletics here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth! I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Join us for a daily episode of the Mike Prince Show right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And welcome back to our Football Friday. Of course, we always discuss football here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Mike Prince on Fridays. We have a special guest to join in with us, local high school coach, athletic director for the Waller Bulldogs. And that's none other than Coach Gene Johnson. How you doing this morning, Coach?
Doing super. Doing great.
Well, you're doing super. You're doing great. UIL has pulled another rabbit out of the hat, at least for the moment, talking about the possibilities of flipping fall sports to spring and vice versa. Some are saying hip, hip, hooray, and others are saying, wait a minute, as old Keith Jackson would say, whoa, Nelly. How you feeling about this thing, Coach?
Well, I honestly, and this may sound like a cop-out answer, but, I have honestly tried to relish myself to taking this thing one day at a time. And, the factors of where we are now versus where we were 3 weeks ago are drastically different. And where we were 6 weeks ago, in the middle of where spring training was supposed to be, we're in a different place. And I don't think it's a coach speak or an over-exaggeration to say that, that things can change daily in this situation. And so I'm more than comfortable with us keeping as many options on the table and, not closing the door on different paths, and just trying to, again, I think I said this last time we visited, just trying to do what's best for kids at the end of the day. And for me, that means being flexible. And if we need to look at a lot of different options, let's do it.
Now, you being the head football coach, athletic director, you're seeing all the internal parts that it takes to run an athletic department, even in the high school area. People think high school, and it's not that much different between collegiates, but, depending on who you ask and what you're dealing with. You have a pretty nice-sized high school. You got multiple sports going on. How challenging would it be to try to have your spring sports, including football, from a managerial perspective?
I've tried to kind of just kick that can around a little bit and think about it. And, I went from wondering, well, maybe you could play baseball games and basketball games on Tuesday nights and football games on Friday nights. Logistically, I don't want to call it a nightmare, but the logistics behind it would be huge. And how to allow kids to practice effectively for, more than one sport. And, but also at the end of the day, I think that, I'm not real sure when the UIL was created, but I know the 20 plus years that I've been in the state of Texas, we have never been faced with any kind of scenario like this. And so we might have to, when we talk about the logistics of how difficult it would be to make something happen, or we have to come back, I think, to that notion and idea of, are there kiddos that this is extremely important for them, whether it's their social or their mental well-being of being able to be back in some sort of a social setting and doing things and being active, or whether it's a senior that's trying to, that the athletic piece may play a big piece in encouraging him to go continue his education and on the collegiate level. And so with that in mind, I think we can't hide behind the logistics of what's going to make this difficult. We've got to look for creative solutions and bury our traditional way of seeing things and thinking about things, and again come back to making adjustments and doing things that may not be easy, but may be best for kids.
And just think, the big fuss about the UIL would always be redistricting. I know they're thinking and wishing that this was the only problem that they had at this point, but this COVID has really been a monster across the board. Now, with everything that's going forward, let's just think worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. There is no sports for fall 2020, and we won't be able to get anything going until fall 21 for everything. How far back would that set your program, and what about the psychological impact that would have not only on student athletes but on coaches and community?
Yeah, I think that could be big. I really do think that could be big. I know that one of the districts in the state came out and said, look, we're not going to be paying stipends to coaches if they're not coaching sports in the fall. And for an outsider, that may not seem like a big deal, but and certainly our coaches on the high school level, they're not living and dying off of their coaching stipends. But I will say that, just like anyone else, that could be a hit to them financially. When that happened, I sent out a text to our coaches and sent them a picture of that. And I said, don't go out and buy a new car right now. Disposable income could change. And so I think you hit it on a nail on the head. This impacts a lot. It impacts coaches. It impacts kiddos. And certainly, I don't want to overstate that point. Our coaches are going to come out of this fine, and we're going to be able to endure and go through whatever this thing leads to. And I think so. Then you have to go back to what's most important, and that's what's best for our kids. And the difficult part to me about this is you are at odds, so to speak, between a kid's mental and well-being and psychological well-being and his preparation for his future in college, and versus a health issue that's here and prevalent in our society. That's kind of across the whole culture of our the whole nation is kind of tied into this thing. And so you hate to see those things at odds with each other, and trying to find the right balance sometimes could be difficult. But to go back to your original point, I do think that there is some potential negative things, has been well documented, just if we're unable to get our kids back in classrooms and get them progressing educationally.
Yeah, it is a very, challenging era that we're faced with right now. But I think we could try to look at this, at least I'm trying to, as the glass half full versus the glass being half empty. It is a time to go back, and if it hadn't been received by the student athletes, the emphasis on getting their educational piece together and lined up. We know the incentive was the eligibility part, but sooner or later, their sport of choice, football, basketball, baseball, whatever the case may be, there's going to come a day they will not be able to perform that on a level of competing They might do it for good health purposes, but that educational piece is something that's going to carry them further down the road. Are you taking that time to re-emphasize that message to your student athletes during this course of downtime?
We are, and we tried so many things virtually. I had a very interesting conversation with a parent the other day that's, outside of our district. But some of the struggles, I saw so many of the struggles educationally and then certainly with athletics when we made the shift in the transition to spring to online and virtual learning and distance learning. And in visiting with this parent, I said, hey, I've got a 10-year-old daughter and she struggled, and so the parent said, oh, my kids did horrible. And so she said, but you know what? She says, they came back and my kids were involved in summer school programs. And she said, whether it was the idea that they had been through this once now and they kind of got their feet wet, or whether they had just kind of resigned themselves to realize this is the way it's going to be. There wasn't any, are we coming back to school and waiting for that call to, hey, come back to campus? No, we know we're not going to get that call, so let's make the best of it. But she talked about her summer experience with her kids, and it went so much better than it did the spring. So I will just, in being honest with you, that was, I felt like with our football kids, we needed to be face-to-face with those kids. They needed to hear those coaches standing in front of them talking about the academics. They didn't need to hear that in an email or trying to Zoom kids and find common. We found a lot of our kids were out working with Dad. Dad may be an independent contractor, and so Dad found it real easy to, hey, you know what, you coming with me today? I get an extra hand on the job site, and you get to see a little bit about life and learn, which can be great. But the face-to-face contact and being there to be with our kids was huge for Waller ISD in particular, or for Waller High School football program. I certainly can tell you that.
Well, there's going to be continued creative approaches to getting through this, and as they say, we'll get through it together. Coach, you are always Johnny on the spot, have solid words of insight and encouragement for Bulldog Nation and for those who listen to the Mike Prince Show. I want to give you a moment to have some closing thoughts as we get ready to move forward for the rest of this segment.
Oh, I don't have any thoughts other than,
you always got a thought. You always got a thought or two, Coach.
I guess I've always. The coaches say I love to talk, so I guess I should lead in that way, huh? No, I just, I pray for our country right now, and that those that will be able to come together and understand the risk tolerance. For me, this COVID deal is that we've got so many people that we're on such varying levels of risk tolerance. I just kind of pray for some common ground that we can find where the right spot is and the right things to do that allows us to move forward, but to do so safely. I love Waller and what it stands for and the people here. And it's been a family atmosphere. And I'm confident that we can do that. I'm confident that we can all, find where that risk tolerance level needs to be, and I'm not just talking about as a football coach, but bringing kids back to school and how to handle this thing for the fall semester. I just pray that those answers will come to us and we'll be able to do the best we can to educate our kids.
Well, sir, I believe that you will be included with a community prayer for that end result across the nation. We do thank you, sir. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. This is Coach Gene Johnson for the Waller Bulldogs. I'm the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more of our Football Friday right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas. Have sports, we'll travel. The Open Mic Broadcast Network serving student athletes from Little League, high school, and collegiate coverage right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. From coast to coast, from dusk till dawn. You can catch all student athletic action right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the station designed with you in mind. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the voice of student athletics. you looking to expand your business or services? Let the Open Mic Broadcast Network help lead the way. With our customized campaigns, we are definitely able to reach your target audience. For more information, dial 832-213-8824. The Open Mic Broadcast Network, serving the community through faith and athletics. The voice of student athletics. And welcome back to Football Friday edition here, the Mike Prince Show. Thank you guys for joining in with us. It is so much going on in such a short time to get it done. But guess what? We're going to do all we can while we can. Want to remind you of some programming that we have here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, will be the Carlos Brown Show live, Central Standard Time. Sunday evening will be the Mike Prince Live Show. This Sunday, we got a special guest or two for you, depending on how things work out, and so much more on the table. We want to thank our sponsors, in particular that of Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union. In spite of everything that's been going on with the pandemic, they have been there to serve. They've been Johnny on the spot. Want to make sure that you support those that help support us here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Want to thank Mr. Rob Butler, Mr. Terry Coleman, and our guest, head football coach and athletic director of the Waller Bulldogs, Mr. Gene Johnson. My time has come where I must exit stage left. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. As always, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.